I got macular degeneration and retinal scarring. When that hit, I got real claustrophobic. I felt like everything was being taken away from me. I couldn't, like just riding my bike was being taken away from me. So everything was closing off. And I felt like I needed to break out, and I didn't know how.
Art is not what you see, but what you make others see. Edgar Degas. For more than 60 years, the Guild for the Blind has been changing what it means to live with vision loss. All the artists in Passionate Focus have experienced vision loss, but none of them have let it prevent them from being artists. We believe that no one should allow vision loss to get in the way of a full and productive life. Together, with the people we serve, we are proving that there is much more to life than meets the eyes.
People have a narrow view of what it's like to be vision impaired. They think you can either see or you can't. The same goes for hearing. I like to be able to open their minds with my art and my music. And when I get tired of trying to explain myself, I can show them a picture or play them a song.
The macular degeneration has changed the way I paint. Since I'm not able to see detail, I had to find a new way to express myself. So I'm really expressing the feeling or image that I have in my mind. Painting for me is really a lesson in self-expression. It has really freed me up from the limiting restrictions I put on it before. My goal is not to realistically represent nature. That is not my goal. My goal is to express myself as clearly as I can.
Because I've been totally blind since birth, I've had to rely on my hands to gain information to use in my work. The biggest compliment I get as an artist is when someone sees and appreciates my work without realizing that it was made by a person who is blind.
I was born totally blind with something called optic atrophy. I was a full-term baby, although I was in the era when there were lots of premature children, babies that were visually impaired due to that. But mine was optic nerve, and I have no light perception, so I don't see light, dark, colors, shadow, nothing. I never have. There's no vision at all, no concept of color.
What do you see? I mean,
nothing.
Do you have any concept of seeing? So it's just darkness?
No. No, not darkness. That's what's interesting. I don't have any concept of blue, green, except what my friends teach me and tell me. Certain greens mean cool, fresh grass to me. Blue and purples means how I think the sky must look, because my friends tell me, about different things of the sky. When I do presentations to the little guys, the Munchkin Patrol kids in schools, they always say, well, but isn't it awful not to be able to see? And I said, but think about it. I have several sets of eyes. You guys usually mainly work with just two. But me, I can ask my friend Sue what color something is, and my friend Ann, and my teacher and friend Heather, and I have 6 eyes right there telling me their opinions, and they're not the same much of the time. My education was phenomenal back then. Before I finished high school, I had 2 years of college music theory and a year of college music history. So I was ready to roll. My weaving teacher's name is Heather, and when she talks to me about colors, I like to think of them as I would a melodic line. If she says something's very sprightly or very bright, or something's sort of dark or eerie, then I sort of try to weave it into a melody in my head, or just think of one when I'm working with it. If there was just a way I could put a loom, a table on my loom, and put my pattern on it, voila, here it is.
Wow. Okay.
And it's a magnetic, all the middle is magnetic, and I anchor my pattern on it, which is in Braille, and I do some of it, and then I take the magnet, the little magnet, and I move it.
So it tells you where you are.
It tells me where I am. This is a shuttle. It's an oblong piece of wood with a bobbin in the middle of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I am going to push the correct treadle, which is underneath the loom, and it will lift certain threads up. And if you can get your, and then I take the shuttle, and I'm going to catch it over here. Watch. There it is. You let that down, and then this is what they call beating it. Watch.
So that pushes it into
It
place.
flops it back into place like a big giant cone. There are 481 things that I put through the right handle and got through here and slit through that, and I'm going to now chop them apart.
Wow. That's astounding.
And no matter how many times you do it, it's still awesome. There are some times when you want to be as independent as you can, and there are some times when you have to know that it's more practical to have somebody give you a quick hand.
Mm-hmm.
As long as they're not messing with your art form or what you're creating and they're not doing it, I'm okay with it.
I lost my eyesight as a result of a concussion. I thought I would not really be involved in art, not on the level that I am now. I kind of given up. The role of art in my life is useful and helping me cope, exist, and flourish in the society in which I live.
I had been a painter for several years when I was diagnosed with a retinal degenerative disease in 1984 and became legally blind. I questioned my ability to continue painting and slowly transform my thinking and techniques to incorporate my physical limitations as an integral part of my work. I'm inspired less by what I see and more by what I hear, remember, and imagine.
I got macular degeneration and retinal scarring, which kind of makes things spotty in the central vision and all around my peripheral. But I can do things out of the central vision. I can do things out of the upper right hand portion. That's what I always say, the quadrant.
Okay.
In the central vision, and that's where I do most of my work. When I was a kid, I used to love. Well, my dad was in. He was a pharmaceutical salesman for Upjohn, and there was a lot of JAMA magazines in my household, and there were these pictures of diseases, for lack of a better word, these microbiological diseases that were just so beautiful, and they were. That's
yeah. I was just wondering.
A lot of these come from. A lot of my organic molecular structures and images come from that. Where they just sort of layer on each other, and but even before that, my first inclinations into art were. I would draw, I was amazed at some of the stuff I used to do. I would draw these Jetson type cityscapes. I just started drawing pictures and drawing these little window vignettes, like my classical tape, as they call it, started, and those all of a sudden seemed to I could do it. It wasn't like a major. I had to work at it, but it was something I could do, and it kind of opened up a space inside of me rather than the outside. They want to feel like you're so special, and part of it is you want. It is something interesting to just show people that it is possible to do things well beyond what is called the practical. For visually impaired people especially, you can push limits as well. You can push limits of practicality. As far as practicality, I've never been really that practical. I always challenge myself. The harder something is. In that sense, I am that kind of. I go beyond the limits sometimes, and I get obsessive a little bit. I was in the meatpacking district when in Chicago on Fulton Street, and I saw at night, and it's kind of like I was looking for a parking, and we couldn't find it. I couldn't find the car, and I got lost, and I looked up, and there was this square building just like that, and the glow of the lights that were on it, the glow was just so beautiful, and the darkness around, you know, it was just like, and I was able to capture that glow and that intention to capture that glow of the evening, that evening glow on that brick, just, it worked. There isn't only one kind of blindness. There isn't one kind of visual impairment. There's different kinds. It's like I see some parts of my world and I don't see others. You know, like I walk with the stick out in the world, and I one day I was caught running to the train, and I was running with the stick out, like running, almost ready to a pole, but I didn't. But this guy was like, "I've never seen a blind man run so fast in my life."